NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith. Wait a minute. No, I'm Monty Belmonte. Khalees Smith is away and will somehow still be here for large parts of the show. How do we do it? And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again. For Live Music Friday, we welcome Jim Hewitt of the Easthampton-based guitar pop band Lost Film. They play the Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett next Friday. And the Wine Thunderdome returns to its place of birth as we sip with the Yankee Sippa and the Wine Sun at State Street Fruit Store, Deli Wines and Spirits. We'll taste two oft-forgotten red grapes from the north of Italy, and we'll hear about one delicious way you can support the March for the Food Bank, which begins in a mere 10 days. But first...
There we go. I could hear my Spotify. I don't know why I couldn't hear you guys right away.
What were you listening to?
Oh, I listen to everything. I love Bruno Mars. Who doesn't?
Nice. I love the way you say Bruno Mars.
Right.
Yeah,
it makes me feel
funny.
so comforted.
Yeah, we grew up with that accent, so
yeah,
we love it.
it's like every time I hear New England accent, I'm just like, oh, it's home.
Angela Marcellino is the author of the cookbook and memoir, The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Their Foodways. And this Saturday, November 16th at 1 p.m. at the Great Falls Discovery Center, emphasis on Great Falls, in so-called Turner's Falls, Angela Marcellino will give us a glimpse into her work as we hear about the recipes that tell the story of this continent with the author's ancestors, the people of the First Light, who walked the land now known as Cape Cod and its islands for over 10,000 years, and when they first encountered the English settlers.
Angela Marcellino is a member of the present-day Mashpee Wanpanoag, federally recognized tribe who still live on their ancestral lands, where they walk, speak their language, and continue to celebrate their culture. The recipes in the book are a map of historical events that formulated the beginning of this nation from the indigenous perspective. The recipes are also used as a metaphor to examine the author's own cultural and ethnic identity, as well as her personal journey. Angela Marcellino, welcome to the Fabulous 413.
Can you hear us?
Oh, no.
I can in and out sometimes.
I think maybe you have a headphone issue.
It might be your headphones,
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we okay?
Yeah, we're okay. Yeah, as long as you can hear us.
You have to talk just a little louder for some reason. Sometimes you come in loud and sometimes you don't. I think it's my wire in my phone.
Yeah, I think it's probably the headphones cutting in and out rather than a volume thing. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Hello.
There we go.
You may need to jiggle.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, jiggle the handle whenever you need to.
Success. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. These are also lessons that we learned in the 80s. Wiggle it a little bit and it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
So Angela, you have a cookbook / memoir, which I love this combination. We've actually had a couple of authors from different backgrounds with this combination. But tell us about your story as a member of Mashpee Wanpanoag, as well as your Portuguese ancestry, and how that factors into your cookbook and memoir.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people write books, and I always respect anybody that finishes a book. It's huge. And when you start a book, I was all excited. I was writing a cookbook, period, at the time. But I realized in this instance that I couldn't write about these recipes without including the unique history around us. In fact, the powerful history around these recipes.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, at first I was highly focused on my Wampanoag culture because the Wampanoag culture, or indigenous culture, is so powerful. You have to understand that we're people that have not left our land. In our case, we're very lucky, indigenous people, to have been able to stay in our land. It is uninterrupted legacy and generations. So we're very planted. So that obligation is very powerful. When you talk to indigenous people across the country, they go home and work for their tribe, usually, to better their people. That obligation is powerful. So I have to say, I love my Portuguese, Azorian, and Cape Verde family as well. I just didn't spend as much time with them. That's just how it went down, you know. But I got to tell you, when I started to do their history, I was extremely humbled by their whaling history. I decided to do both because it was my total identity. What brought me to this place is when I would travel across the country, of course, people would hear my powerful Massachusetts accent, which you guys picked up on.
We love it.
It's so pretty.
Yeah. And I am a proud present day New Englander. You know, we have to understand that we're under the jurisdiction of the English so long that we're all still practicing English culture. We're all still crawling into dark pubs on Fridays, drinking pints of beer, fried fish, and carvery. You may not be aware of it, but we are practicing English culture in this state because we were under that realm for so long. But getting back to my Portuguese and Wampanoag ancestry, it's a very common union on the Cape, very common. So when I would travel across the country, they would say, "Oh, where are you from, Massachusetts?" And I'd say, "I'm from Cape Cod, Massachusetts." They'd say, "Oh," and then they'd look at me and they'd say, "So where are your family from?" And I'd say, "You mean my ethnicity?" I'd say, "I'm Mashpee Wanpanoag, you know, present day indigenous people." And they would look at me and the first thing they would say is, "I thought you were all gone."
Wow.
Which was really horrible. But, you know, people just need to be educated. They just don't know better. And then the second thing I'd say, I'm Portuguese, Azorian, and Cabo Verde or Cape Verde. And they'd say, "What is that?" And it really kind of upset me a little bit because I realized they think that everybody in Massachusetts is English descent from certain areas, especially Cape Cod. So I realized I had an obligation to tell people who truly lived in this region. And their contributions were so powerful. There's no doubt that we were a big part of the development of the nation, not just the indigenous people that fast-tracked the pilgrims to food and water and agriculture like Squanto did. The whaling industry, the economic powerhouse of that whaling industry that my Cape Verdean relatives and my great-great-grandfather from the Seychelles Islands. I am totally descended from whalers from my Wampanoag side, my Cape Verde side, and my great-great-grandfather from the Seychelles Islands. I'm a product of the whaling industry. That was the glue that my family came to. But this is also what Cape Codders are. And some English. Probably a Mayflower person as well. And that's another story. You know, people don't want to hear that. There were unions happening on the Cape, especially in Nantucket. They were isolated places.
Yeah, I once knew a man from Nantucket that did the same thing.
Stop it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, be nice. No. Well, Nantucket, it was a very interesting place, yeah.
But it's interesting because, like, everyone likes to think that culture, especially older history, is, like, monolithic. Like, it was single cultures in place. Sometimes they, like, bumped against each other but never really intersected, which is such a weird way to look at history. Everyone's always intersected.
Yeah, it was illegal probably at the time, and they want to tell their story their way. But today we can tell the story. DNA doesn't lie. We have Goodspeeds that are in the Wampanoag tribe. We have Nickersons. The Nantucketers really were very monolithic, though. The base families there were some of the most wealthiest families in the country. The Macy's, the Starbucks. You know, when you look at the names, the Gardners, the Nantucket history, I find, is some of the most fascinating history in the world.
And we are speaking with Angela Marcellino, who is going to be in Great Falls this Saturday, November 16th at 1 p.m. at the Great Falls Discovery Center, telling stories from her cookbook and memoir, The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I know you're very much connected to the town of Mashpee. Tell us about what is important in especially the Mashpee Wampanoag history about Mashpee and your family's involvement with that town.
Well, my grandfather was the town selectman for 37 years. and we had a connection with the Kennedy family. The town of Mashpee, up until 1970s, was totally run by the Mashpee. Our whole town, if you walked in our town hall, the front desk clerk was a Mashpee, was my cousin. The chief of police was a Mashpee. We ran our town, and it was very ironic because originally Mashpee was an Indian district. We were districted, and we were where Indians were forced to live because of the Praying Indian Act. We had to live near churches. They wanted to Christianize us and assimilate us, and they wanted us to leave our ways. It was a systematic thing. It was a way, unfortunately, to disenfranchise us and kick us off our lands. But the Mashpee, we prevailed. We kept prevailing. It's a story of celebration as well. So we were an Indian district, and we had a few jostling and legislative issues, and eventually we became a town in 1870. And then we were still self-governing until the 1970s, when people found a liking to our beautiful, pristine beaches. And the first exit off of Route 6 on Cape Cod, it became overnight one of the fastest growing towns in the nation. They loved our beaches. So we lost our control of the town, and we lost our independence and our economy. On the Cape, it is very vital to have a job. There aren't a lot of opportunities on Cape Cod. And Cape Codders will tell you how hard they work, through the summer to save up, to survive. So to end the story and go forward is the Mashpee then, through my uncles, filed for federal recognition. And the glory of the story is in 2007, we were granted as a federally recognized tribe, and now we are self-governing again. We have a $17 million government building. We have a mirror government. Mashpee is back.
I love it. Well, later in the show, Live Music Friday with Easthampton's Jim Hewitt, whose band Lost Film plays the Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett next Friday. And the Wine Thunderdome descends upon State Street in Northampton, where we'll taste 2 reds from Alto Adige that might be great for your Thanksgiving. But up next, we'll actually hear about some of the food in the cookbook written by Angela Marcellino, who brings stories from her The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and their foodways to Great Falls on Saturday. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. We're speaking with Angela Marcellino, has a new cookbook and memoir called The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Their Foodways. She'll be at the Great Falls Discovery Center in Great Falls this Saturday at 1.
This is a cookbook, so I want to get into the food
Yes.
because that's very much me. Can you talk about the importance of both rabbit and sunchokes to the Mashpee diet?
It's funny. I would say rabbits were more common on the islands. There wasn't a lot of choices on the islands. They say up to 3,000 to 4,000 Wampanoags at one point lived in Nantucket. I can't envision that. How did they find food sources? I learned about the rabbit and the consumption of the rabbit. I think the rabbit was reintroduced again in the 30s and the 40s during the war times. You had to eat something, and so I learned from Miss Eleanor Harding how to make rabbit. We have an annual gun club game dinner, and all our men hunt, and they bring in game and prepare it. The raccoon, I'm not up to that, but okay. Turtle soup. I'll do the turtle soup, and rabbit is delicious. Don't kid yourself. It's very big in Europe. It's a really lovely thing when someone prepares a rabbit properly.
Khalees and I are big fans.
I make rabbit every year for Easter.
Do you? Good for you.
I do.
Where did you learn?
From working in kitchens and being adventurous.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
And the sunchokes really represent our pre-contact time. We were woodland Indians, and we practiced land management. I say we were powerful planners. We worked the season systematically. We had it going on. We had fresh food all the time. And the sunchokes are very durable. They are a root tube vegetable, close between like a potato and a turnip maybe. Actually, they're very popular in Germany now. They became very popular in Europe because it's a very hardy plant. Grows through the frost. But the sunchokes are yummy. Try the recipe. But they were a staple of pre-contact ancient people. We took that nourishment very seriously.
I am a huge fan of clams and all sorts of other types of shellfish. And I know that clam bakes, have an important cultural resonance with people who live in New England and are New Englanders. But clam bakes also had an important cultural resonance with the indigenous people of the Mashpee Wanpanoag. Can you talk about the importance of the clam bake?
Well, the clam bake is uniquely, except for the new ingredients that have been introduced. And of course, some of those were Portuguese, like the Portuguese linguiça.
Yeah.
People on Cape Cod love Portuguese food. I would say half of our tribe is Portuguese or Cape Verdean. Our tribe, I don't want to say certain council members, but I know they are. Because not that they're not proud of it, but I don't know what part of the Portuguese diaspora they're from. I mean that, so I try to be respectful. But long story short, the clam bake is a very ancient indigenous practice. Putting the food underground with the hot rocks and the seaweed. That's a very ancient practice. That's not a New England practice.
Yeah.
That's an indigenous practice. But adding, again, that's what my book tells you, is we added English food as time went on. And that is New England food, the potatoes, the Portuguese sausage. It's a great example of the cultures meshing together. But the beautiful shellfish was looked down upon by the Pilgrims and Puritans. They didn't want any part of it. They called it lowly food. But we found out through archaeology in Boston that they were eating quite a bit of it. They were closet shellfish eaters, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're hungry, you're going to eat.
Even when I'm not hungry, I'm eating it.
Yeah, it was a cultural thing, The English had a lot of ideas, and this was all new food for them.
In reading your book, it seems like there's, however accidental, a tie between around when the Mashpee Wanpanoag become federally recognized and your grandmother getting into making traditional dishes. Can you talk about that confluence of things and if it was accidental or done deliberately?
I don't think it was accidental at all. My grandmother, I didn't address my grandmother Dixon in the book because she was not from the Cape. She was from down south, okay? She was a product of the Great Migration, to be frank with you. But she was a wonderful wife to my grandfather. She was also indigenous, but from down south, and probably English from what we see, They really had to get out of town. So Grandma was very strict and she was very regimented, but she was amazed coming from the Depression in downtown Boston, and the food was endless in Mashpee. You could just go out and get clams or blueberries. She was amazed by the gardens. She really took advantage of the Mashpee culture. And she also made a great political wife. My grandfather, who was the town selectman for 37 years, he entertained governors. We entertained the Kennedys. They were all in our house. Joe Kennedy was knocking on that door. Mashpee was the bellwether for the politics of the United States. Mashpee hit so many notes in the development of this country. It is always proud for me to tell our story.
That is Angela Marcellino, who is the author of the cookbook and memoir, The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts and Their Foodways, and who'll be in Great Falls in our part of the Commonwealth on Saturday at 1. It's not lost on me that in a couple of weeks there will be a lot of stories and mythology told about an encounter with the English settlers and your people, the Wampanoag people.
Are these the same people who say that the slaves learned valuable skills?
Yes, many of them. And many of the recipes that people are going to imagine that they would have eaten back in 1621 are totally off base. So how much of your cookbook talks about the food of that time and what might have actually been served in what we have reimagined, much to our detriment, I think, in many ways, about that, the meal that will be commemorated nationally in a couple of weeks?
Well, everyone can enjoy it. That's not a problem. But, it's also when you read about the history of Thanksgiving and why it's here today, it was a big PR push from Roosevelt, too, as well. But it references an encounter, and the encounter was at this big, glorious love fest. It was two groups of people that were highly nervous. You had the Wampanoags that were afraid of the guns. They knew what they could do. And then you had the Pilgrims that were very nervous. They didn't know if there were 10,000 Wampanoags behind us. So it was kind of a nervous, I'll give you a few deer, I'll share some beads, who knows. But a lot of the food was probably shellfish. I know it's not very romantic, and deer. And God knows when turkeys came in, they could have. But there was peace at the time. The Indians were in a very desperate place with the smallpox decimating our population. Everyone was nervous. So both sides were nervous and looking for peace at the time. But that ended.
Speaking of decimation and keying back into Foodways, there are definitely some ingredients that you highlight in your book that are not readily available anymore, or like it takes some doing to find them. Is there anything that you had more of in your youth that you kind of miss being able to encounter more regularly?
Well, thank you for reading my book. I'm really impressed. Yeah, I think we are indicators of the land. Indians, our psychology is so different. It's funny. It's not funny, but we still practice as Indians. And people don't understand that. The herring, for instance, the whole tribe in the spring, when the herring comes, it's a huge celebration. You have tribal members going down to the river and counting how many herring. When I was a child, they would run black through the river. Black, that's how many. They were so thick. You could take a garbage pan and just grab them with your hands and throw them in. Now it's very sad. We see 6, 10, 12 at a time. It saddens us. The tribe is highly aware. The tribe also works with environmental protection agencies. We have our own EPA department. We brought back the cottontail rabbit, by the way, teaching them our land management. Indigenous land management now is being practiced by non-natives. We are the indicators of the land, and we truly believe in that.
I love it. And I'm sure you're going to learn more and can ask more questions when you come this Sunday to Great Falls, right along the banks of our Connecticut River, and talk with Angela Marcellino, who's the author of the cookbook and memoir, The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and its Foodways. It's happening this Sunday at 1 p.m. Thank you so much for sharing some of your insights and your history and your story and your inspiration with all of us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And a huge thank you to our local Nolumbeka Project who are presenting Angela's talk. It's their full Beaver Moon gathering. I don't know if anybody saw the moon last night, but there was an incredible halo around the moon. It was just spectacular. Later in the show, Live Music Friday with Easthampton's Jim Hewitt, whose band Lost Film plays the Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett next Friday. And the Wine Thunderdome descends upon State Street in Northampton, where we'll taste 2 reds from Alto Adige that might be great for your Thanksgiving, whether you're having, well, probably not if you're having shellfish, but maybe if you're having the more traditional U.S. American Thanksgiving dinner. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Here we are in the Wine Bunker, deep below State Street Fruit Store, Deli Wines and Spirits, for the return of the Wine Thunderdome in its birthplace, with the Wine Sun and the Yankee Sippa. The Yankee Sippa, who led me to believe I was going to be tasting Cote Rôtie today. Cote Rôtie, which is one of the regions I've not yet tasted. Very expensive wines, usually a blend of Syrah, red grape, and Viognier white grape.
I tried. It will help you redefine your understanding of a grape.
Yeah, well, I guess I won't understand it still.
Nope.
But what are we going to drink here today, Wine Sun?
Today we're going to an area in Italy that has has much more Austrian influence than Italian influence. In fact, I think they still speak quite a bit of German in this part of
it's typically 60% German, 40% Italian, and there's also a local dialect called Ladin, which is like the indigenous, I want to say the indigenous people, but
The leftover language from the barbarians.
Yeah, pretty much.
Before the Romans said, hey, speak Latin.
The area in question is Alto Adige, sometimes referred to as the Sud Tirol, or on the case of these labels, both.
These are red wines that we're tasting today, but if you're going to have Pinot Grigio, if you feel that you must have Pinot Grigio,
This is where to drink.
try the ones from Alto Adige. I generally prefer them as a rule.
I definitely agree with that.
There's a wine meme that has Bruce Lee that says,
Be formless, shapeless, like water.
and then it says, poof, I'm Pinot Grigio. All right, so which one are we going to try here first?
I think we're going to go with the Saint Michael Epon. This is a 100% Le Grain, is the grape from Alto Adige.
Both of these have saints in their name. How holy are these wines?
Holy shit.
Both of these bottles are from co-ops, which are very common in the region. About 300 families each for each wine. I suspect they probably work for both.
We were doing a little bit of research, and these wineries appear to be about half a town away from each other.
I mean, it's a small region.
It's like State Street and Cooper's. They're like half a town away from each other. They're essentially the same thing, but somehow a little bit different.
Yeah, I can't drive all the way up to Florence.
I'd be amazed
It is
how
like a
often we
whole
hear
other
that.
10 minutes. Sometimes you ain't got that time.
Speaking of State Street and Cooper's, those are the only two places where you can get a very fancy bag called Monty's Mixed Bag.
Shameless plug.
Where, let's say hypothetically, you were to donate $100 to the Food Bank of Western Mass. Hypothetically, the whole $100 would go directly to the Food Bank of Western Mass, and there would be bottles of wine in there and beer and other goodies and gift certificates. And hypothetically, they're all available right now at State Street and Cooper's.
Shameful plug.
And hidden in them are 2 golden tickets. One, which would allow you to sit in with Steve Sanderson, the River Morning Show host, and play some music and be on his show. And the other is a golden ticket that would allow you to come to be part of Live Music Friday on the Fabulous 413.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's good stuff.
If you're walking by State Street Wine and Spirits and you happen to see some blue bags in the window, you're like, hey, I love blue bags. It looks like there's some stuff in those blue bags. And you walk in, they're like, huh, blue bags are great. And these are very full of cool stuff. I'm going to support the food bank. That's what you do. We say, thank you very much.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, if one was to walk by the window of State Street Wine and
And
Spirits.
hypothetically, couple golden tickets in there.
That's right.
Wines, beers, gift certificates, candies,
Good
things.
stuff.
Good stuff. And for a good cause.
Excellent cause.
All right, so tell me about this grape, because I don't know this grape very well.
And why would you?
It only grows here.
You're in the basement of State Street?
Grow it down here. So Lagrein is indigenous to the area as of like the 14th century. It is closely related to Syrah.
That explains
Genetically,
why it definitely smells
yep.
like blood.
And then it
And
also,
pepper.
and pepper, and it also is a great grandparent or whatever is a Pinot.
Oh, this smells
It smells really
Really,
good.
really great aromas here. A lot of spice and pepper.
steaky, steak,
Yeah, but a
and
lot
also-
of beef. Super savory.
Yeah, and there's also it's a little funk in here.
Yeah?
It's a little barnyard, which I wasn't expecting
Yep.
in Alto Adige.
But like a black cherry kind of for a
Yeah.
fruit profile,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for
Cherry
sure.
cola almost. There's been a meme going around saying, I had an existential crisis and I believe that I'm now sexist because I never once considered that Dr. Pepper might be a woman. And it really hit home for me. I was like, yeah, damn, I fall in that category too.
I think I do too.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it. Maybe it's because the knockoff is Mr. Pibb.
Right? Also because of the joke that I know about Dr. Pepper that I will tell you, but we'll edit out of the radio show.
Oh no!
Oh no!
I love that joke so much.
That is a terrible joke.
I knew exactly where it was going.
Read your faces.
The minute you said the verb in that sentence, I was just like,
Wildly
oh.
consistent.
Yeah,
Monty.
yeah.
Okay, let's drink wine.
I like when everybody shuts up over the aroma of the wine. We haven't even, I think Monty
I have
might
now
had
taken a
sip,
couple
but
sips, yeah.
that's always a good start for me.
Yeah, and then when I take the sip of it, it's, not chocolate, but like a cacao.
Cacao. I'm not cacao. I'm not gonna have cacao.
Tannins that creep from the back.
I think of this wine, and we have it, I think, positioned in the store as a light-bodied red. And then as I was looking at their own information on the line, it kept saying what a full-bodied red it is, which I think is kind of funny. It's maybe in comparison to other reds in the area.
Talk about what you mean by that when you say that. There's no hard and fast definition.
There really isn't. It's your perception, right? It's the way it hits you on the palate when we're talking about full-bodied wines. Really good examples, of course, are California Cabernets, Argentine Malbec, French Bordeaux. These are big wines. They impact your whole palate kind of all at once. And this is a complex wine, but it still registers on that sort of medium or lighter body.
This is an interesting wine that comes from a very, very small area. I love the fact, too, that a lot of these wineries are co-ops, and intentionally so. I mean, I think if you understand the history of Sud Tyrol or Alto Adige, is that border between Austria and Italy, it is a wave. I mean, first, especially after World War I, it just ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows, and then Italy finally got its hands on it. Austria got its hands on it, and then Italy was like, wait a minute, those are a bunch of German speaking people can't be in Italy, and they took it back. And so it's a very complicated history, obviously, but I like that there is a community sense about it, the region, because it's so small, and I like the fact that they're just kind of looking out for themselves. The co-op aspect of it is what I really like. No one person needs to be rich on wine.
It's almost like if there's a looming threat of fascism, maybe the only way you can fight back against it is to band together as a community.
I was going to say, in a landscape of shifting fascists, maybe we only depend on ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not lost on me, too, that 2020 New Year's resolution, get out of the way of the middle of the door! That's what that horrible piercing.
Son of a gun!
It's not lost on me that my 2020 New Year's resolution I manifested largely down here in the wine bunker, which was to learn the Italian anti-fascist song Bella Ciao in Italian.
I remember. My brother in Jesus.
I'm gonna have to dust it off again, I think.
Just make a little English
Una
translation.
mattina, beso nel zatto.
Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao.
Okay, so the first wine again is
Saint Michael Epon, Le Grain. And if you look at the label again,
Le Grimes,
No.
former Elon Musk partner.
Sud Tyrol, Alto Adige. I like the both of these wines have a lot of German words on them. So here's Kellerei, Saint Michael Epon, Cantina. So the Kellerei is the German word for the cantina that is the winery. Now we're going to talk about Schreckbickel Colterenzio.
I love Shrek.
Great, let's get started.
Shrek is love. Shrek is life.
I pray to Shrek every night before bed, thanking him for the life I've been given.
Based on the color alone, you can see through this wine almost like a
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir. Thank you
Very,
much.
very light.
I was going to say Pinot Nero.
Or Nebbiolo. It's often kind of this color, too. Not too far away from this area.
You're absolutely right.
Oh my gosh, it's so flowers.
How nice. Everybody's smelling it again. So this is Colterenzio, and this is their Saint Magdalena.
And it is Magdalena. That wasn't your Boston
Magdalena.
accent coming through.
No.
It ends in an R.
German R's are really soft when they're at the end,
Also-
so it's Madalena.
In classic German language, ER meaning from this place.
Yeah. Ich bin ein Berliner.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
So Madalena is a style of wine, but it's actually an actual place.
This is a blend of Le Grain and Schiava or Vernach.
Also known as Trollinger.
Just like so much high fantasy, all of these things have so many names.
Mithrandir is also Sindarin, which is another language for the elves, for Grey Pilgrim or Grey Wanderer, which he is also called on occasion in Gondor.
And they are very hard to keep
and very
track of.
complicated stories.
Yeah.
It's light-bodied. You can see through it. It smells like a lot of northern Italian reds. It smells like violets.
This has been a test of the emergency broadcast system. If the person standing in the doorway where the alarm is upstairs in State Street were in an actual emergency.
I call up there with my phone and be like, get him out of the way!
It smells like violets. It smells like a little bit like a lighter candy.
This is definitely violet. Mm-hmm.
What is going on up there?
There's also a tiny bit of stank to this too. So it's like violets and stank. It's like maybe you went and used your Nana's restroom and you sprayed the violet spray after you were all done.
Oh, wow.
A little bit.
The poopery?
Yes.
Real product. Kind of sort of works.
Yeah.
The issue is remembering to spray before you go.
Who has that kind of time? When you gotta go, you gotta go. I'm like, oh wait, let me just take a minute. Like, come on.
Light a match!
Heed, people, no!
Back to Shrek.
Heed, move now! God, that thing's like Sputnik.
I gotta watch that again too. I don't think
Movie holds up.
Hard-hearted harbinger of haggis. It's so I married an
Get
axe
drunk in the
murderer.
corner by myself.
They make me horny Saturday morning. I want to be Betty's Bonnie.
I can't wait to watch this again.
You don't have to. You just
Get me off of this crazy thing. Yeah, I really can recite the whole thing.
wow. Wine.
No one has said what this tasted like.
We've been too busy quoting movies.
Sorry. That's what happens.
That's how most of my day went. I was quoting ridiculous movies
We were
to the
recording
Yankees
all day.
all morning.
Wait, how ridiculous?
Yesterday, we ended our day by playing songs from The Odd Man, who sings about poop, puke, and pee.
Oh my
This
God.
guy has literally written 50,000 songs. He makes hundreds of $1,000s a year. And if you have a name that is not Khalees, he has a song about poop and you. And it's great.
I don't want that.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
There's not going to be a Yankee Sippa,
No, there's not.
but there's going to be an Elisa.
Alyssa Poop.
And there's going to be a Wes.
No.
Wes. Poop, 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 Wes.
No, there's
I
not.
promise you. And there's a Monty.
Monty Poop, poop.
I'm free.
And I swore to my son Enzo
Enzo.
that I knew there would be the perfect opportunity to talk about this on the air within a week of when he actually played me the song. Well, there's a great New York Times Magazine article about this guy. He lives in Danvers, Massachusetts.
How does one get into that line of work?
If only he lived in the 413, he would already be on the show. What were you saying about the wine?
It is just as light on palate as we all thought it would be by looking at it.
And these wines go through somewhat similar processes. So they're both vinified in stainless steel. They both go through malolactic conversion, which, by the way, folks, almost all red wine goes through malolactic conversion, cuts down on the acid. There's something about the Magdalena that I'm finding a little bit more elegant. I mean, I think you could both chill these like in the summer. Like it's one of those
Definitely.
gross chillable red, which is so overused. But
All reds are chillable. All reds should be chilled.
to some extent,
Yeah,
to cough
not
temperature.
cold,
To
but-
cough temperature.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
53-ish degrees.
Is it like a flora versus
59.
fauna thing?
59.
Because the first one is definitely all animal. Is very
Yes, that's
it's
a good
very
point.
animalistic, and this one is very much like
Yeah.
plants.
You know, it's always in the wine shop like, oh, what's for Thanksgiving? Pinot Noir. Which is fine. There's great Pinot Noirs to pair with your Thanksgiving dinner. But I also think that these would be great with Thanksgiving dinner. They're light-bodied. They're not going to compete with your turkey. More importantly, they're probably going to get along with all of your sides. So as the Wine Sun has taught me, and we all love to cook, the art of pairing wine is for Thanksgiving is not with the bird. It's with whatever else you're choosing to surround it with. And I think both of these are agreeable enough to go with a lot of different things.
And we're all assuming that people do things that go way more together than what I tend to do at a table, which is confuse everyone.
Yeah, also not assuming that everyone celebrates Thanksgiving.
Khalees and I are going to an Abitsgiving, pizza-oriented Friendsgiving.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. But the wisest wine pairing advice I ever got about Thanksgiving, if you do the traditional Thanksgiving stuff, came from the wine uncle, who now lives in Champaign, Illinois, and the wine son. Wine uncle was like white Burgundy, Chardonnay. Yeah. Wine son, you have so many things on the table, buy so many bottles, and experiment. You don't have to go with one wine to pair with everything. What are we talking about?
That's also too, like, drink what you like to drink. I mean, if you love Barolo with your turkey, by all means, drink Barolo. I mean, it's really subjective. That's what we always talk about here.
I cheat. I serve wine before and after and cider during.
I think the cider is actually a super good idea.
I oftentimes will serve a Tavel because it's such a powerful rosé.
I like to have one of each, or maybe two of each, going at the available on the table. So a rosé, a white, and a red. Let people pick and choose. It's always
just like Billy Joel said: bottle of white, bottle of red.
Perhaps a bottle of rosé instead.
Oh no! No!
I'm not a big Billy Joel fan.
No.
But that is some good Thanksgiving advice from Billy Joel. Look, we didn't start the fire.
You're about to get beat down.
You like that boomer apologist nonsense. I hate that song.
I like to see which bottle disappears first.
I like to see which relative disappears first because they've been offended by something some other relative said.
That'll be me.
There'll be a lot going on.
And then I try to find them, hope they're okay. Especially if I'm the one who pushed them away.
My relatives are pretty much all on the same page, even if we're not in the same state.
Well, that's nice. I found out some things last weekend. My low-grade depression was not fixed by a family visit.
This got bloodier while it's sat, like, especially
You mean
in
the
comparison.
Thanksgiving dinner?
No, I mean the wines.
Oh yeah, we're doing a wine show.
Are we? Anybody ready to vote?
Saint Michael upon Legrain and the Colterenzio Saint Magdalena.
I'm going with St. Michael this time.
I like it.
The nose on it just blows me away. So good, so beefy, meaty, stinky. It reminds me of the guy who writes about
Michael Michael.
Shout out, Danvers.
I like both of these wines. I'm going to continue recommending both of these wines moving forward. It's always a difficult thing in the Thunderdome. 2 wines enter, 1 wine leaves.
Your idea.
Indeed. I'm also going with the Legrain, the Saint Michael upon.
It's Michael versus Magdalena.
Magdalena.
2 for Michael.
Magdalena.
1 for Magdalena.
Magdalena.
Uh-oh. Wow. The men have gone with Michael and the women have gone with Magdalena.
Yeah, I'm siding with the whores. Come
Yeah,
on.
duh.
Try not to get worried. Try not to turn on to.
To make the crass joke about myself, like, is the bisexual taking the one that gets the characteristics that we hit on both of those grapes? Yes, she is.
Well, is the big fat lesbian the one who's like, oh, this is really feminine. I'm kind of into it.
Flowers and beef?
Flowers
Yes, sign
and
me
beef.
up.
I think I dated her. Did I date her? I think I dated her.
I'm going to recuse myself, and I'm going to allow Magdalena to take this one.
We got a lot coming our way. Give us this win.
I will give you this
right?
win.
We got a lot to deal with.
Thanks to our friends, the Wine Snobs at State Street, where, if you were interested in supporting the March for the Food Bank, which begins in 10 days, you might have an opportunity to do so with the so-called Monty's mixed bags that live there, and a huge thanks to Rob Swan and Ruby Wines for making those mixed bags possible. And speaking of the March for the Food Bank, a huge thank you to the kids at Conway Grammar School, who I spoke to this morning, and I spoke to one of their teachers, Mr. B, who believe that these young children, who have been telling these children about the march and what the work that we do, but he relayed to me that they believe the myth of the March for the Food Bank is that I push a shopping cart all around the world and I raise money for myself to pay for my own food. So I guess we have more work to do. Also, a quick correction. Angela Marcellino, the Mashpee author who has an Indigenous cookbook, she's speaking in Great Falls tomorrow at 1, Saturday the 16th, not Sunday, as I mentioned at the very end of that interview. But coming up, Live Music Friday with Easthampton's Jim Hewitt, whose band Lost Film plays the Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett next Friday. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday, and we welcome to the studio Jim Hewitt, chief songwriter, singer, and guitarist for the band Lost Film. Their most recent record, Keep It Together, was recorded in a log cabin in the midst of a blizzard in rural New Hampshire, but it sounds lighter, brighter, and more jangly, like it's from Laurel Canyon, with perhaps a hint of Seattle-sounding cloud cover over it all. Lost Film is playing at the dreamy Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett next Friday, but is playing for us Live Music Friday here in the Fabulous 413 right now. Welcome, Jim. Let's start with a song.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. This song is called Little Things Forever. It's the first song on the record we put out last year.
Climbed out, I was alone, but I'm not now. This is the only thing I know how to do, is set it up for you. This is all that is left for me. It could be all that there could be. I think I finally figured it out. It's all been done to death, but I water on the pavement. Mornings in the distance, keeping it together. Little things forever. I never feel that I miss out. I know I should go do something else. Instead, I'm here inside this house with you and nobody else. I think it's all that there could be. It could be it for you and me. I think I finally figured it out. It's all been done to death by water on the pavement. Mornings in the distance, keeping it together. Little things forever. I knew you then, I know you now. I'll let you in, don't wanna let you down. Told me a while till this burns out. I breathe you in and then I breathe you out.
That is Jim Hewitt from the band Lost Film, who will play at the Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett a week from today, here at Live Music Friday in the fabulous 413. We ran into each other in Easthampton, where your band is from.
That's right.
When the Wine Thunderdome was at Tip Top Wine Shop.
That's right.
And lo and behold, now you're on the show.
Yeah, I recognized you a little bit behind the counter. So I know that voice. And then here we are.
Here we are. Tell us about, you're like, I guess, Bon Iver, who's mostly Justin Vernon, right?
I'm exactly like Bon Iver,
yes.
that's right.
But goes by the moniker Bon Iver. So tell us, that's kind of your situation with Lost Film to a certain degree, right?
Right, yeah. I don't know, maybe it's the only child in me. I'm kind of a control freak. I don't know how to share, so
Yeah.
I kind of need all of the power.
I have a sister, and I'm the same way.
Yeah, so, yeah, it works best for me to be kind of the lone songwriter, and then I found it's much more interesting live to have a band with you, and it's more fun for me too.
Yeah, so who'll be playing with you at the Dreamaway on Friday, next Friday?
So yeah, we have my friends Eric and Connor Prez, and then Jeremy Woods, kind of a full rock band thing. A little bit different from this, but it's cool to mix it up like this too.
Yeah. Tell us about the name Lost Film. Why did you want to call your projects, your musical projects, Lost Film?
Yeah, I've been in bands before that have pretty weird names. I came up with this about 10 years ago, stumbled across Wikipedia. The phenomenon of lost films, where I guess in the 30s, I think 90% of all movies before 1930 are all burned up.
Oh,
so
yeah,
all
because there was a huge studio fire? Is that the reason why? Or
sort of, it's just the materials that they were made out of the films, they kind of would just spontaneously combust.
Yeah.
So, like, all of those films are lost. I really like that idea of just, so there was all these movie stars and stuff, and they were famous for years, and now they just went away after a couple of years because no one could see their movies anymore.
Luckily, the internet is a series of tubes that will never be able to be destroyed. The internet is not a series of tubes, I'm being told by Betsy, our engineer, and I think she's fearful that we might lose some of these things. Perhaps we should move back to artifacts that are less flammable. Tell me about your relationship to the greater music scene here in the 413 in the Valley.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I've been playing for a few years. More recently, I think the pandemic was a pretty big hit for the Western Mass music scene. You know, we lost...
Not a big hit like in the #1 Billboard sense.
No. But yeah, we lost the Flywheel, which was a big resource for touring bands.
In Easthampton in particular, yeah.
That's right. You know, obviously the mix-up what happened in Northampton with all those venues shutting down, and then I think we're at a turning point now, though, in terms of like indie rock bands, you know, having places to play and everything. We have the Drake and all those great spots like that.
Yeah, it's been really great to see this sort of resurgence with the Iron Horse, the Drake. We see the heavy metal co-op has bought a building in Easthampton to bring their metal there, so that's all really fun. Well, Dreamaway Lodge also kind of went down and then came back up as well. And that is where your band, Lost Film, and you, Jim Hewitt, will be a week from today. Let's hear another Live Music Friday song from you, Lost Film, Jim Hewitt.
Sure, thanks. This song is going to have a little drum machine on it. It's called Big Talk. It's the second song off the record.
Is it raining where you are? Is it really not that far? Do you think you'll spend the night good time to see you. I'm sorry we're not at home. Is it a good time to be you? I guess I'm gonna let you go. Is it a good time to see you? I'm sorry we're not at home. Well, it's a good time to be you. I guess I'm gonna let you go. Is it where you are that keeps us apart? Or is it who you are that really left this mark? Tell me who you are, who you really are. Tell me who you are when I'm not with you. Oh. To get to ahead, to get away, to get to ahead, to not feel the pain.
Woo! Jim Hewitt, DBA, Lost Film, who are playing at the Dreamaway Lodge in Beckett a week from today. Thanks for coming in for Live Music Friday. That was me on the drums, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
No, it wasn't. It was a drum machine. But you have played with Khalees's band before.
That's right, Extempore a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Sorry she couldn't be here.
nice. Well, thanks again for coming in. Next week on the Fabulous 413, we're exploring hip-hop at City Space in Easthampton. We're going to go to the Easthampton Community Center to learn about their food pantry. We won't spend our whole time in Easthampton. We're going to go to Snow Farm. We're going to go to Hampshire College. We'll be at Amherst College as well. Khalees Smith will be back on the air with us on Monday. Have a great weekend. I'm Monty Belmonte, and we'll see you Monday on the Fabulous 413.